so listen, 2024 is going to be, I think, an important year. I really think 2025 is the year where crypto goes. I would say Larry Fink being orange-pilled, right? You see old videos of him from 5-6 years ago where he was a Bitcoin skeptic, and he's now saying it's going to be part of everyone's portfolio, and BlackRock's the largest asset manager. Invesco Galaxy, we're going to try to knock them off the ETF pedestal, or at least, be a good battler, competitor in that space. And I think that's important because you're going to have 9-10 firms trying to, build ETF products. That's 9-10 sales forces going out and telling the Bitcoin story. Mm-hmm. And after that, they'll tell the Ethereum story and probably the Solana story. And so we're going to bring institutional capital into a space which has been dominated by retail. So that's exciting. And so one of the reasons I got into crypto was I think this is the most progressive industry. It's like progressive plus libertarian, some weird, funny baby of left and right. But it has the capacity to really bring money and resource to the masses in a much more fair way, right? And so it hasn't yet. It's made small inroads, but really it hasn't lived up to its potential yet.
Yeah.
But that's the reason I got into the thing. In 30 years, the rich-poor gap has just gotten immense from the time I graduated from college. In the last 12 years, the cost of a house in America has gone from $190,000 to $390,000. It's harder and harder for people in the bottom 70% to actually fulfill their dreams. And I thought we need to do some more radical things. I think crypto had that capacity to help. I think it still does. And so we're at that point where the only way out of this is to debase your currency some. What the central bank's got to try to do, and I think Powell is doing this, you want to talk tough, or 2%, and allow 3.5%, 4%. That's how you slowly inflate away your debt. Remember, that year at 10% inflation, that inflated away a bunch of debt. But what does that also do? It erodes your purchasing power. But let me tell you, if you bought Bitcoin in 2010 or 2012, you've protected your purchasing power against inflation. I mean, that's the simple argument for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm cherry picking the low, but
actually, if you look pretty much at any time,
you could almost do it any time.
Yeah.
And so the question just will be, what's the cost of a house going to be in 2030? And is your dollar plus its 5% interest going to keep up? Or are you going to need to have some other assets? It's not just Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. I think silver and gold will go. It's other cryptos. It's equities. So equities go when they debase currency because everything is worth less. So the price goes higher. What's wonderful about certainly Bitcoin is it's now just on the macro dashboard. I'm sure when I walk into any macro trader, they've got crude and 10-year and gold and silver and probably the corn price and 10 years and JGBs and Bitcoin. And so it's a macro asset. Most of those funds play it through CME futures. We had a big account recently buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin Cash with us. That makes me really happy.
You mean not Bitcoin Cash, but the altcoin. Yeah, spot Bitcoin. Yep.
Spot Bitcoin with us. I think when the ETF shows up, that will be the weapon of choice.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's easy. It'll have liquidity. It's the same brokerage account. They'll get margin on it.
Yep.
And so I think you'll see a lot more both long-short equity funds, macro funds, institutional funds participate because it's easy. It made zero sense for a $160 billion hedge fund to have a position in an asset that was big.
Right.
And so only at $500 billion, $1 trillion and real liquidity does any asset make sense for big portfolios, for the real big ones.
Right.
And so we have grown into, we're now big enough for anyone. We weren't when we were a $200 billion asset. We just weren't, right? But as a $1 trillion asset, it's now big enough for almost anyone. And so I always say, what's the difference between Bitcoin and gold? They got the same macro story. And so I can talk about macro. The gold adoption story happened over 3,000 years. It ain't going anywhere. The Bitcoin adoption story is in it's the second decade. And it's picking up steam. And so what I mean by adoption is that people see it as a viable asset. What drives me frickin' crazy is when Elizabeth Warren or Jamie Dimon or, at times Janet Yellen said, well, I don't really see value in it. I was like, the gall, the arrogance that since you don't see value, there's no value. Bitcoin's value is the social construct. I say it has value, you say it has value, therefore it has value. I don't care what Elizabeth Warren says. Quite frankly, I don't care what Jamie Dimon says.
Right.
And they have been proven wrong. And the group of people that care about have been proven right.
Don't think you're smarter than the market.
Yeah, you can decide I don't want to buy it. Warren Buffett decided he didn't like it. Charlie Munger, God rest his soul, passed away hating Bitcoin. They were wrong in the time frame to operate on. You don't have to be in every asset, right? I wish I bought Apple stock 20 years ago. I remember buying a bunch of it. I sat with Peter Thiel one day, and he convinced this group of people that Apple, Microsoft, Google, these weren't tech stocks, they were monopolies. And I was like, it just clicked. Every once in a while, an idea clicks. And so I went out and bought a bunch of it, all of it. And it had a great year. They were probably all up 30% that year. And I sold them all. That was 2014.
Yeah. How has it done since then?
It's shocking. Once you realize something is a monopoly, you never sell it. So listen, 2024 is going to be, I think, an important year. I really think 2025 is the year where crypto goes.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe not in price, but I think it takes that long, right? We won't have regulation, I don't think, in 2024. We might. 5-10% chance we'll get it in 2025. Yeah. And we need regulation. We just do. And listen, the election is in 11 months. And so then it takes 4 or 5 months. And so you're really mid-25. I think that's probably when you see these tokenization things start getting to critical mass. And so in some ways, 2024 is going to look a little bit like 2023, with the exception of this giant fire hose called ETF, bringing new capital into the space. And what that capital does is allows people the time to keep investing in the projects that actually change the way people live. Bitcoin can change the way people save and protect their wealth, but it's not going to change the way the financial system operates, right? That's the plumbing of all this decentralized DeFi stuff and quasi-DeFi stuff and stable coins and tokenized Apple shares and tokenized Stradivarius violins and tokenized whatever.
Right.
The Bitcoin and other money coming into the space allows me to hire people. It allows my peers to hire people.
Right.
It gives us breathing space to actually build out this revolution.